Listeners everywhere, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
Hello, dear listener and viewer and listener. We are a multimedia presentation, and of course,
Some of them are viewing and listening.
some of
at the
them
same
are.
time.
So if you can handle that, you can stay. If that is too much to ask of you, well, then let's just choose the audio format, I guess. Hi, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, and I am Joel.
And I'm Ryan.
And that's Ryan. And we have an awesome special edition of the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan.
Man, we're excited.
Oh, this is great. And as promised, we had been teasing it for a few weeks now, but let's bring in our special guest, Mr. J.O. Sanders. There he is. Woohoo! Hey, Jay.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, great to see you.
Great to see you. We're so
I like
thrilled.
this background. I like this movie show.
Yeah, that's our
Isn't that
that's
neat?
our fun logo. Yeah, we
Excellent.
when you have
Did Ryan,
friends.
did Ryan not arm wrestle you to have his name first?
Well, no, he was
I
gracious.
insisted. I
Yeah,
thought
he was-
Joel and Ryan sounded like Nolan Ryan. It sort of rolled off the tongue in a nice way.
Yeah, I got it. It was a baseball thing.
Yeah. Well,
And,
yep, ultimately.
yeah, and then so then we had when you have friends that do cool things,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can call on them from time to time. So we have a friend who is a designer and artist, and so she said, I'll do it. And then, much like I'm like, hey, Jay, you want to come on the podcast? And you're like, yeah, I'll do it.
We told her we
impressed.
wanted it to look like the side of a medicine show wagon.
It does.
And
It looks just
Joel,
like-
move to the left so I can show my favorite part. I always do this when we talk about the Lego. It's the
Nope, wait.
ampersand with the movie reel.
Yes. I can't
There we
quite
go.
see. Wait.
I'll turn it like that.
Hang on.
There we go.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Well
cool.
done. Well done.
So we appreciate you calling out the logo. We're always happy about that.
Yeah. So Jay, as I have teased on this show, I teased it when you were so gracious enough to join us for our disaster. We clipped you in on our disaster episode, which
Our
was
CG disaster episode.
Yeah,
Even though he
CG.
was Mr. Sanders was an important part of both our 90s disaster episode and our CG
Yeah.
disaster episode.
Underwater, under snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great time with that, and then so then we've been teasing it that we were going to have you back here for a while, and so we are super thrilled. I of course am lucky to have I worked with Jay when we did a production of Cyrano de Bergerac. Do you have the nose still?
I have it sitting right here.
There it is. Every night, Jay, every night, sometimes twice a day.
Listen,
Having
oh
to
my
put
God.
on and reapply and keep putting it on. So we did that show.
Man,
That
I
was-
can't imagine Cyrano twice a day. You must have been falling over by the end of that day.
Well, I'm a young, healthy actor.
I'm not. Even
Okay,
if-
I'm an old, healthy actor. Okay,
Yeah,
I
I'm
ruined
not-
my knee in that production, so
Yes,
I was
yeah.
limping.
Yeah, there was a
actor.
lot of that show. Yeah, I mean it was a great show.
You were wonderful in that.
Well, we had it was
I got to throw him off the stage the beginning of every night. I knew I was coming on when Joel came on and began being bad.
it was the best. I got to essentially follow all of my natural acting instincts, which was to over gesticulate and yell and talk louder than everybody and chew up
Well,
all the
that's-
scenery.
That's an actor's
I found-
dream in some way, right? Playing the terrible actor.
the bombast. But I found it very instructive.
Yes.
I said, if he can go that far, whew, I don't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we're gonna make Jay seem like subtle.
Exactly. It gave me room to to kind of move in with that. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So so we're thrilled. We're thrilled that you could join us. You have before. I mean, even before you and I became friends. You have come up often in conversations that Ryan and I have had about films, and
sometimes without objection.
Yeah,
usually largely without objection. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you have the distinction of being one of those guys.
Yeah.
It's like so
Definitely.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, do you get recognized a lot?
Well,
Do you? I mean, or
I,
if you do,
I do, but it's gone through a real evolution where it went from being I know you to wait a minute, you're an actor, right? Yes. Or someone, and there was a woman in an airport just a couple of years ago who said, I know you. You're my doctor's assistant. I said, no, I'm not actually, but maybe I look like it, but I'm actually an actor. No, you're my doctor's assistant. And I said, oh, she said, in Baltimore. I see you regularly. It's very nice to see you. And I tried, and I said, well, actually, maybe I just look like him because I am an actor. And after a little while, I said, when is the next time you're going to the doctor? She said, actually, next week. I said, well, I'll see you then.
Yeah.
And I went on my way. But it's kind of graduated to where people now know me. Yes, you're that actor, and I remember what I saw you in, and then they remember your name and what they saw you in. And then, you were terrible in that. And I remember your name, but there, it is kind of a gradual thing. But that's great for me. I have eschewed being. I've been around and worked with many people who are. People know them from across a long distance, and that's one of the first people I worked with was Burt Reynolds when he was like the most famous actor in the world. He was the top box office draw in the world. The very beginnings of my career, and it wasn't fun.
Sure.
He was very nice. He handled it very well, and he was very cordial. But I did not envy him his position, and I've enjoyed having just enough that people feel familiar, and it's an icebreaker, and you meet people, and then they're always happy when you're not an idiot or an asshole, if I can say that on here. But they're impressed by the really easy stuff. Like you're just a human being.
Yeah.
And they say things like, "Whoa, but you're just a guy." Thanks. It wasn't that hard. The work wasn't that hard. I'm just doing what you're doing. But I do find there's a responsibility to be receptive without being, oh my God, thank you, or there's that realm between I don't talk to anybody or I don't sign any whatever to really nice to meet you. No, it's fine. Thank you for saying something. No, you're not bothering me. I appreciate you saying something, and move on. And with that. Most of my experiences with people just saying things as they pass me on the streets of New York or wherever with, love your work.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
that's a New York thing too. I mean, I remember that from my time living there. It's like it seems to me that you can be. New Yorkers aren't as much, they sort of are like, oh, yeah, no, I recognize that guy. But it's not like, and then you're happy people running over.
Exactly. It's not like, oh my God, I've never seen someone, every once in a while you'll get that, but generally it's somebody in from another place who's in New York. Oh my God, you're my first famous person. I'm sorry.
Ooh,
I hope you do better the next time.
Okay, well,
but it's really it's just enough to tickle me and to kind of a warm thought, and then if I can leave it with, thank you very much. It's really nice. So what's your name again? Thank you. Hello. Handshake, whatever, and you're off. It makes me feel good, makes them feel good, and on. But it's not. I've been happy not to deal with fame as the first element of my life. And since Marianne Plunkett, my wife, is also an actress and known and has been in a lot of films and things, as well as a lot of theater. She gets a bit of it too. Recently, she played Mrs. Rogers in the opposite Tom Hanks, and she was in The Little Women. So, two things that she did were Oscar nominated, and we get that kind of, and it was so there's a balance to that too. I'm not kind of drawn out like, oh, you're the reason we're paying attention. It's just kind of that's our business, and we get seen, and thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's how it is when Ryan and I go out together. We get stopped all the time with people wanting to talk to Ryan.
Ryan, I can
and
understand.
I'm just like,
that.
it's okay.
Ryan, you're the guy with the music behind you, man.
That's me. That's me. You called it.
Well, just a real quick background before we get to talking some specifics about some of some of the amazing just films that you've been in. Born in one of my favorite towns, Austin, Texas.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And did you
didn't grow up there?
Didn't grow up there.
I was there for the first 6 months of my life. My parents have been down there. My older brother and older sister were born there and got a few years on them. My younger brother and younger sister were born in Philadelphia,
mm-hmm.
which is where we moved soon after. And we moved around all through my life, for the most part, every couple of years. A lot of interesting jobs and places, and even ended up in South America for a couple of years. My dad was one of the heads of the Peace Corps, the head of the education program in Colombia, when I was 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really interesting life moving around, which I find I share with a lot of other actors I meet. A lot of kids who come out of military families, a lot of kids of ministers, people who move around, people whose parents, we see our parents get up in front of other people and speak. So there's some sense of, oh, you can do that.
And when did you kind of get the bug? When did you sort of know that this was something that you
10 years old. Well, I loved it when I was in, like, before I went into school even, and we were doing it with someone who did it locally, doing, I played Christopher Robin with my sister playing Pooh in a literally local kids neighborhood production of Winnie the Pooh. Years later, I did it with my younger brother playing Pooh, and I played Christopher Robin. But I really started when I was 10 years old at a theater in Cleveland, Ohio, called Caramoo House, which is the first black theater, serious black theater in America. It had already been open for, oh my God, I guess 40 years or something, when kind of an unheard of thing. It was a community center that had 2 theaters in it. It also had art and dance and music and photography, and I studied. I was in a chorus there, and I studied ceramics, and I studied everything. But my father was the executive director, and that was back in the early '60s, in the midst of the civil rights movement. So I was one of the few white actors on stage, where I was the minority, which is very unusual, and a lot of productions that were normally that were originally written as white shows were done with all black casts. It was a really interesting time to be doing that. Plus the civil rights movement, and people left. Our family went with the local community down to the big civil rights march in Washington, on buses from the parking lot of our theater too. So it was a really interesting, unusual way to begin, and all my acting heroes were black members of the community there, and it's where Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee came from, and Superfly, Ron O'Neal came from there, Arsenio Hall had come through there, and Vanessa Bell Calloway. A lot of people came through this, and we were there for 2.5 years, and I really got the bug. Went to South America for a couple of years, and they didn't have much going on there,
right.
But I did what I could with talent shows and stuff, and then came back and lived outside New York City at Chappaqua, and they had a wonderful drama department there, and a drama teacher who was very serious and really took a bunch of us under his wing and guided us forward as to what it was to be a serious actor and to take your work seriously. And that everything came flooding back because I'd had that bug already. And then I went to college at SUNY at Purchase, I was in the very, very first graduating class there. I was the first person to ever audition for it. And my father had actually attended the groundbreaking for it because he was the executive director of the Westchester Council for the Arts at that point. So he was excited because he'd found a perfect place for me, and it was a state university.
Yeah.
So affordable and all. But that goes back into and I've just kept it up and up and up and never done anything but act, with the exception of working on a United States research vessel in Antarctica between high school and Colum. And,
Yeah, we got that in the show already.
Yeah,
the
we
research.
put that in the show because I'm like, I gotta put this in there. That
Joel's
you were-
reaction to that was priceless.
Yeah.
But when it comes up, right, that I knew about all this stuff from Day After Tomorrow because I'd actually been around these glaciologists and seen ice core samples, and people went, "Are you nuts?"
Who
But
is this guy?
Yeah.
It's just about the opportunity of living a lot of lives and living life fully. And my parents encouraged our curiosity. I was one of middle of five kids, and I came right out, and I've been doing acting all these years. And to this day, I've been the last 25 years or maybe more now doing master classes at SUNY Purchase. To take it back to them and encourage them and show them the excitement that I still hold for what I'm doing, even though I'm in my late 60s now. Hard to believe. But
60s is the new 30s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Truly.
60s is the new. Exactly. It feels. Listen. I was playing Cyrano.
Yeah.
You know, you got to feel young to do that.
Yep.
You got to feel young, whatever age you actually are.
So then.
So
Sorry,
I was looking on the internet to prepare for this to some degree, and you've got nearly 150 just Internet Movie Database screen credits.
Yeah.
So for people who aren't super familiar with Jay's work,
I really think of
he
myself
is-
as a theater actor.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I do all those other things, but I fill in around my theater work.
Right. You kind of getting to your stage origins there. So that's still a really impressive haul just of screen credits. To where the movie show, we're going to kind of introduce a few of these credits as we go. The ones that we found particularly memorable, that we think maybe the audience might, and you'll just have to respond. I saw Eddie Makin's run later, and I enjoyed that. But the first time I remember seeing you was in Tucker, A Man in His Dream.
Right.
As the defense lawyer for our put upon hero. That was fun, right? The big courtroom scene where you basically get to relive the greatest hits of the movie.
Yeah. I'm amazing. And Vittorio Storaro doing cinematography.
Yeah.
You know, what's not to?
He makes you all look good.
No, it was extraordinary, and it was all in San Francisco. And then they'd show dailies, and we were invited to them if we wanted to go. And normally it's like, well, I don't know, but they were showing them at Skywalker Ranch because George Lucas was our producer. So I go, yeah, I'll go. You know, you go and sit in this screening room there and see that whole incredible place, and that was pretty rarefied air. And working with Coppola was amazing, but also every actor who came through there, Lloyd Bridges, you know, and Marty. I mean, it was just, everybody was amazing. I had also worked on stage at ACT in San Francisco, so Peter Donat, who played the prosecutor, was an old buddy of mine from those days, and I admired him greatly, and very sweet man. But there we were in San Francisco, so they had made use of various San Francisco actors as well as all of the Freddie Forrest.
Yeah.
Mako, Christian Slater. Um, is it was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Kind of crazy.
and like I said, all in your scene together. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they paraded all those people through at
Right.
the end of the film.
And I had various other scenes at the factory with when the scene when the 50th
Yep.
car comes off the production line and stuff like that. It was all no, it's like you think, well, I deserve it as much as anyone does. I'm doing my work. Why not? But you still count yourself lucky every time you get in with a group of wonderful artists. And I
Sure.
do. That's definitely a moment to remember there.
One of the things I that always get, I mean, like I said before, when you come up a lot, also because you you have a knack, and it's a credit to you, but it's also just something intangible, where the roles that you get cast usually at least one time get some really memorable moment.
Hmm.
Is that
Sometimes,
you making the
sometimes
moments memorable, or
Sometimes it's finding the moment and filling it. Um,
recognizing when it's there and knowing you have to nail it?
yeah, sometimes right, exactly. And sometimes it's you see a script and you go, "Oh yeah, I can do something with that."
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. Short of you want to lose yourself in things. You want to be aware enough to fill it and give something magic to it, but you also want to be available enough to it that it just happens.
Hmm.
It happens, and if it just happens and moments are real, there are going to be lots of special things that happen. And that was one of those groups, for example, where everyone you'd look to was full and giving, and I you know but the other side of it was I I always thought of myself as capable of being the lead. I had done, even
Hmm.
through college and all, I'd done great leading roles in Willy Loman and Galileo and all. I thought of myself as this person with this big story to tell. But I had to, as I came into the real world, I had to say, well, that's fine when you're in one of those roles that you do that. But when you're in one where you're supporting means bringing this full world from your perspective into that. Don't make it about yourself, but make your time there matter. It was important that this guy was there. Um, and I also thought of it for a while in terms of putting together a reel so that people could see, people could imagine you with this wide range, in effect, making a major role out of all the pieces. But each piece had to have some value and it had to be full. It's been just
for
giving
for
over
our
to it.
non-actor or non-industry listeners, a reel is your sort of video resume. Your
Yeah.
highlight reel is
There were
basically what it is.
clips. The
Yeah,
clips of things. And I actually later went on to make a reel as George Zunza, if you know George.
Oh yeah.
Now,
sure.
wonderful actor, New York actor and LA actor, and he once sat me down and said, "Jay, everybody's doing a reel now." And it was just that moment where it kind of hit. You got to do that. That'll make all the difference. You send them your reel. And I said, "Okay," and I began to think about it, and I'd note in my head where those moments happened in
Hmm.
various things, and then I went back and got copies of things. Oftentimes they didn't want to give you copies of anything, but I'd get 3/4 inch reel from copies from casting people from studios, from whatever. Sometimes they'd make me sign waivers that I wouldn't use it for anything, but
Yeah.
and I go like, what am I going to do? Show my scene for money? I
On the
just want
corner, just on the corner with a.
right, exactly. And
Throw a hat on the ground and
I,
see what you
what I
get.
did, I went through and I worked like a director, finding it, and there was a lot of humor in it. I did a lot of
Mhm.
funny things, but a lot of really serious things. So I go from, from kissing someone to killing someone to having a very funny scene and moment here to being dredged out of the Hudson over here. It was, and it was.
Yeah.
it got to be fun. It was like a puzzle, and it was especially fun because I was doing these fuller roles in the theater.
Yeah.
So I'd be doing my full things, and then I'd go and pick up pieces with all that, and it would allow me to kind of put myself into my part, whether it was one scene, two scenes, three scenes, whatever. I'd find the richness there, and then go, "Oh, good, we got that piece." And eventually, I had a reel that was actually, and I found this out a very strange way. Some actor came up and said, "You're that guy, you're that guy," and I thought it wasn't like you're that actor. He was, he was
You're the guy with the cool
he
reel.
was an actor. He was. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "They showed your reel. They showed your reel in school." I said, "Where was it?" He said, "Juilliard." That they were teaching my reel as an example of what you could do. Well, I had been told by agents unequivocally 3.5 minutes. That's it. Preferably 3 minutes. They don't want to say any more than that. Mine was 17.5 minutes. And I did a whole collage of faces in the beginning that sort of gave you a promise of all these different things you would see. But I did it to music. So, and I got a professional editor to sit with me and work, so they'd actually do the cutting, but I'd say, I see it happening here, 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 kind of directing with an editor. And I got the music that I loved that really had life to it and bounce, and then it would go scene to scene to scene to scene, and at the end, another one that would take you out. And it, would end on a line like, I had one from The Matchmaker where I was in a limousine in the back and all the press is outside, and I'm looking out and all the lights are flashing from their photography. Yes, yes, I hate you all. I'm the president. I'll have you all killed. And that was like the end of the
Matchmakers of the last.
There was just sort of silly, but having fun and having a sense of humor and going, don't take this too seriously. But then it would have a really dead serious, deeply emotional scene tucked in the middle of it, and it was kind of going, I'll go anywhere, and I've gone anywhere, and I'm comfortable with going anywhere. And that was really what I wanted to say to people. And sometimes people would say, one director said to me, I was asking for a guy for this role, and your face came on. I went, yeah, that's him. I went, well, that was a quick sell. So you didn't see the other 17, 15 seconds of this. He said, I wanted a man for the thing. They kept giving me boys. And he went for so the face was enough to do it. Sometimes that's it. Other people see a scene that goes, oh, yes, this is very much like that. Or he has the vulnerability for that. Or, that's right. He has this sense of humor that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not used to selling myself in that way. Or I hadn't been used to the idea of it. And since you're not there, you're not going, no, it's really great. I do this thing where, no crap like that.
Talk you through my reel.
But when you're on stage, of course, you're spending all those long hours in rehearsal and the run of the show, and you joke around backstage. And if it's a comedy, they know you're funny there, or they say, he's so funny backstage. Oh, my God, he'll fucking kill you on screen, whatever. You get to know each other. Whereas with meeting people, you're going to go in and say, hey, let me do all these different sides of myself so you have some idea of who I am.
Yeah.
I also should say, and Joel, you can appreciate this, being an actor working at the Guthrie as much as you do, and I imagine at other theaters around Minneapolis, which is such an active place for theater. But people know me here because I've spent my time here. But I was dead set on staying here and doing theater, but all the film work was happening out in L.A., or most of it.
Where's here for the audience?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in New York City.
Yeah.
I'm in New York City. Right. And sometimes it was, I got work in London. I got work the Matchmaker. I worked in Ireland. I worked in Hungary with István Szabó on the Meeting Venus. I've had all sorts of opportunities that have come for whatever reason, but I've always managed to stay in New York and keep working on the stage. So that's been one of the luckiest things I do, because I know a lot of friends who are wonderful stage actors who really had a taste for that, who went out to LA for one reason or another to do a project, whether it was a film or a TV thing, ended up going, oh, well, I got an audition for this, and now they want to see me for that, and they're talking about me for the series. Maybe and they'd get a house, and they fall in
now
love,
they're
they get
Los
kids.
Angelino.
And I have lots of friends who've been there 30, 40 years who thought they were going to be New York actors. And not one is not right or wrong, but I was able to make this work here it was an act of will, but it was also the grace of luck and how things fall together.
Yeah.
And I travel to the regions to do great roles when they come up, and to me that spice of the differences and the ability to play any and everything and to grow by playing things that are reaching beyond something you've done before. I do a lot of classical theater, a lot of Shakespeare, Cyrano, one of the great experiences I've had, a role that you just never forget, and challenges every part of you, including your nose.
Yeah.
but to me, it's all about keeping things exciting, and keeping and staying a little bit afraid, going, can I do this? You're like, yeah, come on, you can do it. And once you've done it, you can. You can.
Great.
So anyway, that's maybe I'm telling you more than I set out to, but that's my love of doing this, and my love of doing all these different
Well,
kinds.
yeah, it really is. You have from a actor's standpoint. You have had such an incredibly diverse, group of roles that you've been able, and that's.
I have turned down a number of things along the way. Not, I had enough activity that I didn't turn something down, so I didn't work. But I would go, no, I've done that a lot. I don't need to be a cop here unless he's a cop with a really complicated situation. I don't need to be a killer because I have a strong brow, and yes, I can do that. Visually, I can fit that, but what else can I bring to this? And I just kept looking for what can I explore in this that's going to be interesting, and try to be, when it's not focused on me, try to be the best supporting actor I can be. People wanting to go, oh my God, get him. Yes, he's a great team player. Or we need somebody who can really lead this thing. Oh, he can do. They're all great compliments, and I get a thrill out of doing all those different aspects.
It does seem like if you had wanted to, you could have played Lieutenant so and so forever.
Yeah, and I could see that danger. And I thought, and where it's really a danger, especially young, I guess especially anytime, but especially young, is when they offer you a lot of money at one point, and they go, yeah, just sign this 7-year contract right here, I was offered opportunities to do some soap opera roles when I first came to New York, and I went, no, and I went to regional theaters. I went to Arena Stage in Washington, D.C., and played all these different roles, and I went to ACT in San Francisco and played, rotating rep, playing everything from Shakespeare to O'Neill to the Christmas Carol, which you have to do if you're in a regional theater.
Yes,
For sure.
And all that sort of
rules,
thing.
yep.
And oh my God, the training was incredible, and I would send any young actor to that, but that doesn't exist in the
Right.
same way now. Now you have to make it that. Now you have to live in that area, like you are in Minneapolis, and formulate from there.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to read their situation and make the most of it. But I have to say I've loved it, and I've been really fortunate to always keep moving. So
I'm going to put you on the spot here. What do you have a preference, or what do you prefer? Being part of either as a lead or an ensemble player where you are on a shoot for a long period of time, so it's
Right.
something a little bit more akin to a stage production, or do you like coming in, you're on set for maybe 4 days and you're like an assassin, you come in, you nail
That's
your
what
part,
yeah,
and then
that's
it's
what
like bye.
I used to refer to that as I mean, I was an actor hitman.
Yeah.
I did that with the first film ever done specifically for cable. I'm old enough to remember that. Was produced by and starring Faye Dunaway, and Richard Widmark was in it. All sorts of wonderful actors in it. And Joan Tewksbury directed it, called Cold Sassy Tree. And I came in as her old lover or young lover, but who shows up out of nowhere to take her back and into my arms and big kiss and all that, and then walks out again. And you know, it's a real. As a matter of fact, the kid who's watching us in the background kissing was Neil Patrick Harris, Doogie Howser, as he was known then. You know, tremendous actor in person, who I've come to know since then, and it's been wonderful. But that was outside Atlanta, just south of Atlanta, and I remember being brought in just a week, something like that. Bam, bam, and big central role, and yeah, it was great. But then I did JFK, and I was on it for 4.5 months, and that was amazing because I was really steeped, and I was a character. I was a leading support. I mean, obviously Kevin Costner was, but I was with Kevin.
You were on his prosecution team.
Well,
JFK.
I was actually I was the one, not the one on the prosecution team. I was his lead investigator.
Oh, right.
Chief investigator. I was the only one who
either
didn't
way,
work for
a
him.
member of that incredible ensemble. Where
Yeah.
I don't know that people really understand what it takes to sit around a table with 16 other people and get everybody's coverage and everything. But those debates, and I love that movie, and I adore your character in it and your performance in it. You get to do a couple of super exciting things. You get to break down the actual shooting from the actual window where it happens.
Right,
That
right.
scene is
That scene.
riveting. I mean,
Well, I have to
really,
tell
really
you,
great
let me
stuff.
tell you a story about that.
Please.
We did something. I can't use the word unprecedented because it's lost all value now.
Sure.
But we actually did 2 weeks of rehearsal. You just never do that. The only other time I can remember doing that in that way was with Coppola for Tucker, which was brilliant because they brought us all in. We rehearsed and we talked about it, and Vittorio Storaro went around on a rolling chair saying maybe we do this, maybe we do that, and we met each other. And then when we went home and when we were brought in, we felt we were already part of the world, and it was magnificent. And I will always be grateful that Francis did all that for us, because it was, and he was really approaching it like a play in that way. That you are all part of this world, even though we're doing a lot of stuff that you're not in. And then Costner, during the rehearsals, first day of rehearsal for JFK, he won 12 Academy Awards. He left halfway through the day. He went out to the Academy Awards, and he came back the next morning. We all went, and he went, I feel like I died. like that's it, where are you going to go from 12 Academy Awards, and he was a very generous, sweet guy to work with, and very helpful, and having come off just run that, led that movie and directed it. His hand was very sure at that point, and here and there he made suggestions. I remember one scene where the camera's coming in towards me, and he said, Jay, try getting out of the chair when you do this. I said, what? Why do you think? He said, there's going to be the energy. You'll see that. The energy of the camera coming forward and you getting up towards us. And he was completely right. And, it was one of those really technical things where I didn't have to be thinking anything or doing anything. I was into it, and I thought, whoa, learned something there? Cool.
Is that moment where the debate you're having over Michael Rooker's character sort of going to the evil side?
No, that was a later. That was later thing.
That's
I remember
a really
what
neat moment.
It was, which is a different room. That was an interesting thing because when we did that debate, Oliver decided to do that right after lunch. And that is the biggest killer in the world. When you have something that's a really primo moment, and everybody after lunch, there's that and I remember drinking a big thing of iced coffee, and just for a kind of kick, and did it. And he was very complimentary, which is not like Oliver. Me and with Rooker too in that scene. He just said, man, you guys both, I knew you could do something with it, but you both really knocked it out of the park there, which was a nice vote of confidence and a nice place to be with. But I remember that day going, holy my God, we're going to do that now? And you have to, fortunately, I knew enough about filming that I thought, whoa, I've got to get myself to that. I have to get up. Because when the camera comes in, they're not wondering when you ate lunch.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I always tell. That's what I always tell students. That's actually when you're a professional actor.
Right.
A lot of people can create characters and sing songs and do whatever. A lot of people can do that. Yeah. It's when you just get done and you're tired and you've eaten a big meal and then suddenly you have to switch it on. Right. That's when. That is the real work that we. I did.
I remember doing a production of a film production that I don't even know if it's available anymore. Of Picnic.
Oh wow!
Josh Brolin played the
out of towner.
The out of towner, and Josh and I were pals. I had met him on a thing called Detective something. I'll remember it. But he was he had been my brother's assistant. It was a 50s thing, and he was, and my brother gets killed, and I come in and take over. No, I'm sorry. It's the other way around. I'm the brother he works with, and I get killed in the first 20 minutes of the thing. And the other guy, Michael's name I'm forgetting now. But he came in. He was a cop who'd been kicked off the force, and he comes in, all charged up because I've been killed. And he goes on, and the series was the two of them. So he inherited my assistant, who was this 17-year-old Josh Brolin, and Josh and I then did Young Riders together years later. The first episode,
the Pony Express show. That was a good show.
Yeah, we had a ball, and Melissa Leo, and that played my sort of the den mother for the group, and my ex. Yeah. And
you feel very at home in westerns, I have to say. Do you like that setting?
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I would have.
I
think if I'd been of the last generation, I might have ended up doing a lot more cowboy stuff,
Yeah.
But the scene I was thinking of with Josh, there was a scene that existed in the screenplay that wasn't in the stage play, and had been. Did they have it in the movie or not? They'd cut it, whatever. They had found it again and brought it back into our piece, and he's running from the law at the climax of the piece and everything, and I take him in, and he has a shower at my place, and you see the inside of Howard's place, my character, and anyway, it doesn't exist again in the play and everything. It makes this character much fuller and richer. And I talk to him about my dreams of getting out and encourage him to go on and make something of himself and see the world and all that. Well, but my big close up on all that happened at like 5:45 in the morning or something. I mean, there were crew members sleeping all around the set by that point. We had just gone on, and everybody was connected. But what you're saying, Joel, that it's about recognizing that's the moment. So hold on for this, or make sure you give yourself a chance to get there. You have to know what it is that's going to make all the difference, because that moment is one of the most important moments in the film, certainly for me, but it's a real turning point of things. And knowing that and saving yourself for that, and then really being full when that comes, is a major part of being a film actor. It's about recognizing how does my cog work in this machine. So
Nice. I just real quick, because I got distracted. It's a little bit. You played Howard in Picnic. We did Picnic in college.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And frequent guest of our show, one of the guy who was the best man at my wedding, Michael, who was
Did our disaster
episodes with us. He played Howard in our college production. So I was like,
I was runner up for Howard.
Yeah, you
were. You?
Michael.
You would have been perfect.
Anyway, so I was like, oh my god, yeah, weird.
What I realized doing this too was I didn't know Picnic well, and I have not seen it played this way in the few productions I've seen of it at all. But I believe that Howard quite clearly was William Inge.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I think
sure.
So. Yeah.
Inge, but also that he was clearly gay, which Inge was, in a small town, but he loved the people around him. He had a true, full love for all these people. And in the piece, he gives gifts. Like, he gives something to every member of that community that helps them go forward. Very much like a writer saying, "Oh, I know. I'll write you a scene in which you, or I'll have a love interest for you, or I'll give you an opportunity that will take you up." But that it would have been something that he couldn't have expressed at the time. And when the whole idea of the marriage of convenience with Rosemary, the school marm, with whom I had Mary Steenburgen playing, and Bonnie Bedelia was the mom of the girls, and it was a wonderful cast of people. But I realized the marriage of convenience was, yes, I love you, but that's not really, if that's what's going to help our lives go forward, yeah, let's do this. But and it was a very freeing revelation for me, because he became a very generous, very engaged, but very not confused, but stuck.
Yeah.
He's stuck. I can't fully express who I am.
You're never going to be able to fully be who you are.
Right. I've gone off to the big city maybe and had some experiences with other men, but nothing that anyone must ever know about, and that's not me. It just happens to be, It's interesting. Those kinds of discoveries are things that just rock you when you're working and go, oh, this is so exciting, because I had no idea this was here before. And when I'd seen it played before, he was mostly just played as a drunk, and that takes you through part of one scene, and that's it. But that's was so much to see about this character.
Very cool. Very cool. Unless you have another, I would love to hear. We had talked a little bit when we were together during Cyrano de Bergerac. We got talking about Glory one day.
Oh yes.
Could you just talk a little bit? I mean, that's another one of those hitman roles where you come in. And
that was a strange hitman role, because they were working on the edge of what they were doing, and they had so many people to keep track of, and they had clearly lost track of me. They knew they wanted me to do it. The director had seen me on stage, and oh yeah, he can really pull off this scene and all that stuff. But the scene needed work. The original scene, if you recall, it's me at this heightened moment before the big attack on the fort, in which everybody dies.
Yeah, you're the general laying out everything, what the goal is, all the rules of what we're about to see in the climax of the movie, basically.
And the question is, am I using them as a white officer? Am I using them as cannon fodder to plug the hole so that our troops can come up over them? So am I that kind of heartless manipulator, or am I seeing that they really have the heart and ability to do it and give it, which are two different movies?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it was originally written that I was going to have them draw straws to see who would go, as if a great general would let them make their decision according to who lost the draw.
Yeah.
Right. So I got in and I said, I really need to talk to you about this. I said, please, would you ask them to bring me down early, a week early or something, because among other things, I need to spend time with a horse. I'm going to be on horseback, and I do it periodically, but I always need coming back to find I didn't grow up on horses. I just was off and on.
But you knew enough to know that you and the horse had to be on the same page when the cameras
and I want to give the most to the horse so the horse can be as good as they can be, and then they're going to make me look good.
Mm-hmm.
And with this kind of thing, you have to look like you're someone who's lived on a horse. I said, please, and also I'm imagining they're doing all this period stuff. They're not going to have some period stuff that fits me. I'm 6'4",
Mm-hmm.
and so they did bring me down, finally, brought me down about a week early, and everybody was scrambling, and the first thing they're saying is, where have you been? Well, they were going to bring me down right before we shot, so I'd been hoping they'd bring me down. So I came down. They built me that gorgeous costume from bottom to top, took every measurement, and I had to look really smart, the big hat,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had the mustache that flowed and all that. And then I kept trying to get the director's attention, who was nice enough, but he didn't have time. He was busy doing a million other things, and he's following that whole troop of, that was the first thing that Denzel did that got him attention, and Morgan Freeman. And Denzel won the Academy Award, I think, didn't he, for
Yes, he
supporting
did.
actor? But Andre Braugher was in that group, and Jimmy Kennedy, and a whole bunch of wonderful, wonderful actors, and Matthew Broderick. They're doing stuff, but it was their focus was there, and they'd been telling this big, longer story, and I'm just coming in at the end. I understand all that, but I'm going. But if you're going to introduce me at the end, I have to bam.
Yeah.
I have to stand there and just. You have to go. We've come upon him. Obviously, he belongs here.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have that feeling, or why are you introducing me? But we went back and forth, and I was getting nervous because I had what amounted to, I believe, the longest speech in the movie, because generally films it's all broken up. But I'm going, but it's wrong. We can't be doing this. And finally, they said, okay, no problem. Ed says, this is the night before we're to shoot it. We shoot early in the morning. Let's meet tonight, and we'll have dinner. I go, oh, okay, good. Maybe I'll just stay up all night absorbing this and really getting it in me. But you have to really be sure of yourself. Well, I got to the last minute here. I got a call from his assistant. Oh, he can't. Something's come up. I was like, whoa. He called me, or I called him, whatever, and he said, you know what? I tell you what. You know what you're doing. It's just rewrite it the way you want to. And show it to me in the morning, and we'll fix it. And I'm going, well, what if I rewrite it wrong, and you want to, I need to learn this thing. So I waited, or I didn't wait. Rather, I went
That's
right
really
to it.
something, though. Ed Zwick, the director of Glory. I mean, he
Yeah,
started out as a writer,
yeah,
and he
exactly.
really
Oh,
is.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's
And
something for
I'm
him to tell you
thinking,
that.
and I'm also thinking, this doesn't sound like this doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah,
It just sounds like I'm so busy I can't be bothered with this, and I'm going. My ass is going to be in close up tomorrow. And of course, if you know that movie, it's
Yeah.
close up.
yeah.
So I rewrote it and I learned it, and I got there the next morning, and he went, "Oh, this is great. This is great. This is great. You know what? Let's just." And he cut the third line, and he switched the 3 48-pounders with 48 3-pounders, and changed the this and changed the that and cut this and it was like you would do with a computer, working and taking this out, putting that in, and I was like, I'm fine with the changes. I mean, he dealt with the stuff we were talking about, and he saw what I had been talking about and agreed, yeah, you does want to be the not drawing lots, and okay, just go run it, go into makeup, and let's meet up on the beach, and we'll deal with this, okay? And I no, you know what? I'm sorry, I take it back. He did not make the changes there. He said, no, this is great. Go get in makeup, and I'll see you. And then I got to the beach,
And here you go.
and all these people, hundreds of soldiers, and they got all that. It was this phenomenal, epic set, and I'm at the center of it. And he said, "No, I think it's 3 18-pounders, not 18 3-pounders. Would it? And you don't have to say this and do this and do that." And he said, "You know what? Go run it with the script supervisor 100 times." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's great. Fine, we'll be fine." And I went down the beach, and I started running it. I did not get through it once when okay, come on over. Let's just have a rehearsal. You're fine. Do a rehearsal. And I never got a moment to go through the thing. So of course, I should have said, I'm not ready. I'm just not ready. We made all these changes. You have to give me time. Give me half an hour, whatever, so I can get this down, so I don't waste anybody's time. And instead, I toughed it out, and I went up a bunch of times in a row. Like you get all the way through, and then something, or the first line would go out of your head, whatever. And oh my God, the producer starts running around saying, "Let's make him cue cards." I'm going, "Oh no, everything that an
Ouch.
actor doesn't want to hear."
Hmm.
And Ed stops and goes, "Jay, what happened? I know I've seen you act. You were great on stage. Why?" And I didn't just stop and say, "You know what? You changed everything this morning. I understand it got busy, but you haven't given me my time. When I'm ready, I'll tell you." I couldn't see myself stopping things up.
Right.
So I took the hits, but I was really furious by the end of it, because I felt I'd sort of sucked it all in and up, and when it comes out, it's fine, but you see it. I don't remember whether it was in pieces, or whether it was like the 15th take that it finally comes out, and each time there's that sense of. But it wasn't that there was any difficulty learning it. It was that we had just changed it all.
Yeah.
And then there were all these actors looking at me like, "Hey, man, learn your lines," which is really tough when you got a group of actors who've all been together. And Carrie Elways, too, was in it. And all these guys. They've all been doing this for months, or however long it was. And I'm like, "Sorry, guys, they just," to this day, I don't know how many of those guys have ever heard that story, but it was the most frustrating thing I've ever done on film. And yet
I'm
I was
pretty sure
really,
they all watched the show, right, Joel? You keep
Yeah,
track of that.
they're regular. I
and
mean,
many of them are on the
Yeah.
So that
But-
if
but
they
I was-
haven't heard it, they will have heard it now.
Well,
For sure.
But I was really proud that I was a part of it.
mhm.
I list it, and no, it goes down there with being the most frustrating film experience I've ever had, and yet I'm really proud that I'm in it. And of course, by the time it comes out, nobody watching the film sees any of that. But it was really more one of those cases of, you have to know how to stand your ground just to do the work that you need to do. in order to be responsible. And sometimes you try to be a good team player and you end up messing with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a classic.
Yeah.
And I remember telling that story to Oliver Stone and Kevin Costner when I was when we first worked on it. I went, "Oh my God," you know. We laughed about it, but it's just it's a movie story. You know?
It's a great. I mean, we had that was the kind you told that during tech during Cyrano.
Did I? Yeah.
We were back in the
That's right.
dressing rooms, and you were like, and we're all, you know, as we are during, you know, during tech week when it's long hours and you're doing everything, and everyone was getting frustrated and everyone was a little on edge, and you were like, here's the thing.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well,
it's really, I mean, ultimately, how many times do we get into survival mode in this business?
Mm-hmm.
And not because anybody's doing it to us on purpose. It's sort of the pressure of making the diamond.
Yeah.
You know, we put ourselves under pressure. We allow ourselves to be put under pressure, but sometimes it just goes too far, and you go, oh my God, I almost lost it there. I'm excited to say we made it through and everything looked fine. I did not have really good feelings about Ed Zook.
I have to say, if the only thing, Jay, that came out of that was that you were responsible for the regiment that is the story of that movie volunteering for that mission instead of drawing straws.
Right.
And they were lucky to have you, because that is a really powerful moment in the film. Yeah. And I'm. You know, there's a bunch of deleted scenes to glory that are kind of not so great.
The historical truth of this was this guy, Captain General Strong, died leading the second wave. So he was not the guy who just sent them all in.
Sure.
He went in himself and actually died in the process. And that's a very different kind of guy than the guy who just sent, you guys go in.
Yeah, how about you guys?
And how do you get that across?
Why did you
don't see that, and you don't. Anyway, but it was, again, how things fall together in a crazy way, and I still see Matthew Broderick regularly at we have a lot of mutual friends and
fellow New York actor, right?
Fellow New York actors, a lot of stage things and personal things, and he'll turn around and go, "Hey, General Strong." But
yeah, that's me. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. We got room for about one more of these.
Yeah,
let's pick a good one.
Yeah, Ryan, which one? I want to make sure that, because you were the one that's like, there's.
Well, you talked about JFK, which I really wanted to hear about, and I didn't expect the Tucker thing to be so interesting. So it's a great show.
Let me tell you the JFK. Another thing about JFK.
Yeah, by all means.
Since Costner and I spent a lot of time together, as I was his chief investigator, sort of attached to his right shoulder. And we had that beautiful scene. That scene was during this. We were only in Dallas for 2 weeks when we started. We had done a week of rehearsals. Then we went down and spent a week of rehearsal in Dallas and New Orleans. So we knew our territory, which was really great. And again, kudos to Oliver for getting that into us and letting us find our way in, feel our way in. But the hardest location, which was fought for the longest time, was the book depository, because Dallas did not want to be known or remind people that they are the place that JFK got killed. Mm-hmm. So they had fought this back and forth, and is this a good thing? Should we do it? Should we not? And I wasn't part of any of that, but I knew it was tough getting there. And finally, when we did it, we were the floor just above or just below, I forget which it was, because now there was a museum on the actual floor. But when we shot it, one of the hardest tasks as an actor, and Joel, you'll really appreciate this, is I'm learning a New Orleans dialect. I'm going for all that sound. That's a very particular sound that comes only from understanding how the vowels work together. you go, I can get to there no problem now. And I was playing a character who actually was Lou Ivan, was a representative at the time, represented the Ninth Ward, and I had met him and spent time with him. I'm doing that, but I haven't. I've met him in the rehearsal, but we haven't been spending time there, so I'm not soaking it up by being in New Orleans and hearing that sound around. I'm in Texas. Now, I've been to and from Texas. I mean, Picnic, we actually shot in Texas. I had a brother who had gone back to Texas, to Austin. And you hear Texas all around you, and it's hard not to go back into that. You know, that's an entirely different thing. And they're talking about Dallas, and I'm supposed to be down in an entirely different place. So I have to do three things. I have to tell that story clearly, which again is one of the longest speeches. I think the longest speech in the thing is Costner's thing in the courtroom.
Sure.
But this is another long monologue, which is not typical in a film. And I have all these things to do. Second, I have to handle that Mannlicher Carcano like a Marine, like an ex-Marine. My father was a conscientious objector. I'm not. I don't own guns. I'm not. But I've probably fired more guns than most people have because of the movies I've done.
Sure. Yeah.
But I had just gone the day before, I guess it was, to a shooting range with Dale Dye, who is the guy.
We're big fans of Dale Dye on the movie show with Joel and Ryan, for sure.
Well, he was Saving Private Ryan. He did all of that.
Platoon. I mean,
right.
Everything.
He was the man, and that was, and of course Oliver knows him, with Platoon and all that stuff. And
brought him into the
Die
business.
Hard, really tough, knew what he was talking about, and we had gone out and he'd taken me shooting, and I had a good feel for it, but it's one time on a shooting range, so he's teaching me the rap of the thing and everything. Then there's a slight other thing. I'm left-handed. And the thing is shot right-handed by Oswald.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to look like you have to go, okay, we don't want to be thinking, oh, well, but he would be doing it, I have, so I'm wrapping, aiming, turning, pointing, going back and everything for timing, and I'm doing it right-handed while I'm left-handed. I'm speaking with a New Orleans dialect for the first time in Texas, with everybody around me talking Texas, and I have my dialect coach behind the monitor. Voice time, yeah, that's right. That come out fine. And I'm trying to remember this speech.
Yep.
Oh my God! I mean, I'd done the work. I was ready, but that was one of the toughest. And you go, no pressure, but we have to get this done here today.
Yeah, this is our only. This is our only chance.
And just so you know, this is the center point. This is the central scene of the film. And of course,
you say that in it. This is the whole case.
Right, and I've had friends who are historians say, Jay, when you die, should it be many years from now? But when you die, one of the first things that's going to come up is the picture of you with the Mannlicher Carcano in that window, because it was such a central, iconic moment. And I thought, okay, just get it right.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be relaxed and brilliant and open and good. And anyway, it was. And I'll tell you one other story about that.
By all means.
Costner was there because he's, as his movie director idea, at one point he goes, Oliver, because outside the window, they are running the assassination over and over and over, and they're placing cameras. One time there's a camera where Connolly was. One time there's a camera where Jackie was. One time there's a camera where the driver was. One time it's where the Secret Service guy who jumps up to catch the bits of brain that are falling on, all that stuff. One time it's from behind they did it from every possible angle so that they could cut around the way they did. which was very cool and very clever. And
Mm-hmm.
they had 3 editors working full time on that. And they would halt so we could do our takes, and then they go back to doing it again. But we knew they were doing so. Kevin says, Oliver, wow, we got it. We really should do this thing, and he told him this idea. I finished my speech there about everything that's gone on, and I walked off down. He walks with me down towards the window. I go past him, and he goes to the window and looks out. And as he looks out, they rack focus, and they had called action, and history was happening out the window. So it's like suddenly in his imagination, this is all one take.
Mhm.
Suddenly you're seeing the Kennedy's limousine coming around and all that, and the head going back and all that, and they rack focus back to Kevin. He looks at me and says, "Book 'em, Lou, every last one," and turns, and we walk in past the camera. It was like, whoa! It was like you couldn't have, who would have dreamed up and set it up, and they did it. Never got used because the cutting around,
Yep.
was a whole different rhythm. But somewhere that footage exists.
Wow.
And that's pretty damn cool. And I was just, I was like this happy participant going,
Yeah. It's like that would be if Kevin Costner had directed it. That would have been
Yeah, exactly.
how that scene goes.
Dances,
but Oliver has his style.
exactly.
So,
Dances
that
with
is-
JFK.
yeah. Oh, that is spectacular.
Yeah, that's really great.
We don't want to keep you any longer. You have been so unbelievably gracious. I do
my
just
pleasure.
want to make reference to one of my
Yes.
personal favorite Jay Sanders roles, which is Ranch Wilder.
Oh,
Good old Ranch in Angels in the Outfield.
I wish I had somewhere I had around here the artwork from the plaque
big,
that was in the booth.
nice.
Yeah,
Oh, that's spectacular.
You can't fire me. I've got a contract. I'm Ranch Wilder.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so silly.
It's
We had
joyful.
so
It's
much
joyful.
Yeah, and I was just watching. I was just watching it. And I was starting to show scenes of it to my son, and he. But it's the moment. It's the interview with Danny Glover, where the two,
where he
the two,
punches me out?
but
Yeah.
it's that square off and the coming closer and closer and closer
Okay.
before it, the camera
He
gets
punches
back
me
up
out, and then I bounce back up and go, "I'm still here."
Yep.
Kept talking.
that tickles
That writer who wrote that adaptation and that screenplay, because it was from a 1950 or 53 piece. Keenan Wynn, I think, had played my role, or I played his. But Holly Goldberg Sloan, she and I became close friends after that. And actually, I think I had started improvising, which to me made perfect sense. We had the guy, I had the assistant who I would shut his mic off when I'd ask him a question and shut him off and go, "That's enough. Okay, now we're, and there were all these other things, but also we'd come to the end of a take and I'd keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And they were laughing. I mean, there was great response from the director and Bill and Bill Deere and all these people around. And then a couple days into it, maybe it was a couple days into it, there's this woman standing over on the side like this. And I don't know what made me think of it, but they're seeing the dailies and everything, and I saw her over there and I went, "Bill, can I talk to you a minute?" I said, "Yeah, Jay, what is it?" Just so that I know, is that the writer? He goes, "Yeah." I went, "Hey," and I kept going. Well, she and I became fast friends. We're still in touch. I had a back and forth with her just last week. I adore her. She's a wonderful writer, and she went on that year. I mean, at first she was upset but then I was going, I'm doing all your words. I'm just doing other stuff as well. And I can't tell you the number of those other things that I put in that are sort of memes from that show. This is not baseball. This is not baseball. Things like that just they came out of playing.
Yeah.
And she, much as she was going, what's he doing to my script? It became like, hey, I really like this guy. And we've become close friends. My son was in utero. Marianne, I got a picture of Marianne pregnant with Jamie on the pitcher's mound at Oakland Coliseum where we filmed that. And he was born at March 1st. And the first film he ever attended was as a tiny, tiny baby at the press screening of Angels in the Outfield. And he used to refer to that. Oh, I've got it. Wait. Perfect. That same scene you were talking about. He used to refer to it as Daddy Ball. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's me and right?
Yeah.
Me and
That's
Danny.
fantastic.
And Danny's actually an old friend because he had been in San Francisco when I was there at ACT, and he was part of a Black Theater Lab that was on in the around the regular season there, and I had met him. Wonderful guy, wonderful actor. And we've crossed paths many times since, but that was a kick. And a year later, less than a year later, I got a call from Holly saying, Jay, I've written you a role. Would you come do this? Playing, yeah, it was almost exactly a year later, playing in The Big Green.
The Big Green, yeah.
Which she wrote and directed. And originally that character's name was Jay Slanders. Which she went on to change. She changed it. I said, Holly,
If
I
somebody
love you.
else had
This
done
is
the
great.
role, he'd have
But
stayed
somebody-
Jay
yeah,
Slanders.
this is like maybe too close, and I don't know that it's going to be my signature role. Could we do something, So she named him Jay Huffer
Yeah.
because she really hated Ariana Huffington's husband. So I was Jay Huffer for that.
Yep.
But Jamie was 1 year old and started walking. He was exactly one then and started walking there. And that was in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
We filmed it. Anyway, it all comes
That is-
round and
yeah,
round
it all-
and round. And, yeah.
Joel's a soccer movie connoisseur, so that's,
Oh,
I don't know where that
yeah,
falls
that
on the
is-
list, but
No, Big Green it's a kids movie. It's like in that sort of.
What do you mean it's a kid's movie?
I mean, it's a
I'm just joking.
brilliant analysis of the game of football. Studied by the highest clubs in Europe. It's a great kids movie.
My son was impaired by that movie. He felt he was so confused. He thought you had to fall down whenever you kicked a goal because the little kid kicked the goal and fell down, but it went in, and he loved soccer, and that was really he was a strong point as he was growing up. But every time he'd kick the ball to the goal, he'd fall down and go, "I won the game! We won!" Oh,
It's spectacular. So real quick, Jay, let's quickly talk about the Apple family.
Sure.
The great online
trilogy now.
Yeah, the trilogy.
Just opened the third one last week. We're just
And
about the 10,000 views.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and where can people go and watch that?
www. It's an internet term, but for those of you who are older than dirt, like www.theapplefamilyplays.com.
Yeah.
www.theapplefamilyplays.com, and the name of this particular one is Incidental Moments of the Day. Richard and I have worked together. I met Richard 45 years ago. 45, and at Arena Stage, DC, my first year out of college, and we became good friends at the time, remained good friends, but I didn't do any more plays of his, but we'd go to all of each other's stuff. I went to openings of his things at the RSC in London. He came to Broadway, and I went when he did this book of chess. I went to, he got us into opening night and all sorts of things. And then he met Marianne, and he just was like, and he started working with her, and he did about 4 pieces with her, workshops and regular plays, and finally after the 4th one, we were sitting down, he and his wife Cindy and Marianne and I and the rest of the cast up in Poughkeepsie, at Vassar, where they had just done this thing, adaptation of plays or stories for a player piano. But I turned to him and I said, Richard, I love what you're doing. I love that you love my wife. I share that with you. And I love your wife, which I know we share. But did I kill your mother? And he responded exactly as you were responding, Joel. And he laughed. He said, what are you talking about? I said, Joel, I said, Richard, it's all these years. We're friends. We've spent New Year's Eves together. You love my wife. We get on so well. Why have we never worked together again? And he would work all the time. And he laughed at me. I thought, oh well. 2 weeks later, he called me to do the reading of the first Apple Family play, which it was written with Marianne in mind. And I don't think I was actually in mind for this character. And we have not stopped working for a decade.
Yeah.
We've done everything together, including a absolutely transcendent version of Uncle Vanya, which I did soon before I came out to do.
I think that's right. Yeah, right.
We did all these plays together, and Marianne was in all of them. I was in all. We were playing brother and sister, and then she was the widow of my brother, who was a playwright who had just died a year ago, and in the Gabriels, and we did the Michaels with where she was the lover of my ex-wife. I'm now remarried to somebody, and it's a whole family that's come together from a dance company from the 70s and 80s, and all in Rhinebeck, New York. Anyway, we're close friends, have been now for many years, beyond all the time that we were close friends, now close friends and working together. And when the pandemic came up, Richard called and said, so what are we going to do? I had just opened in Girl from the North Country on Broadway.
Yep.
We were the last thing reviewed by the New York Times. Big hit. Big hit. I, for the first time, had my dressing room done, painted, and brought things, and I brought stained glass in. I mean, it was like, I'm settling in. I'm going to do this for a while. I'm not used to having a longish run, but this is going to be great. And I love these people, love the show. And we got shut down 1 week later. And Richard calls me and says, what are we going to do? They can't stop us. We got to keep going. Let's go. Let's do something. And he said, I have this idea that we do the, oh, now right out of my head, the not the horror style, where everybody telling stories to get through the plague.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about. The Greek. Thank you. You'll do it, and I feel like an idiot because I've said this 100 times. But it's the idea would be that we would get in touch with actor friends who we had worked with all across the world and get everybody to do a different story, and we'd do it on Zoom, and we'd coordinate it, and it would be a way to keep things together and bring people together internationally using the internet and all. And he said, I think it's kind of perfect because it was the plague, and here we are with this and everything. A few days later, he calls back and he goes, you know what? I'm not thinking. nobody's getting back to me. They're all too busy, worried about their theaters going under, and maybe it's too depressing. We're linking it up with the plague. It seems to down
On the nose and
on the nose, and
yeah.
walked away for a couple of days. Came back and said, "Here's what we do. What if?" And he said, "I want to bring back the Apple Family," which we had done. We had actually done 4 plays of that and toured, which we'd done one a year from 2010 through 2013. 4 plays, put all 4 together in 2013 and filmed them, and then the next year we did a European tour of them. Big hit. People received well all over the place, and said, "This, I think this could work because you guys all know each other already. We have the relationships, and this form that we do of an overheard conversation, which is the way all of these plays have been, very subtle, very where the audience is welcome to be there, but it's as though they just happen to be looking in through the kitchen window, or a guest who's sitting on the couch but not talking, just part of the conversation." Said, "I think it would serve itself if we do Zoom calls where it's the family reaching out because they need to stay in touch, they need to be together, but you've got the relationships and we've got the everything, and we can explore and have conversations about what's going on." I said, "Sounds great. Do you want to?" And man, he went straight ahead and wrote the first one of them, called "What Do We Need to Talk About?" And we got there first before anybody else had figured this out. And it was really, really Richard. I mean, we did very well with putting it together, but I credit myself with good work, but it was really Richard's vision and his writing. And we put this together so quickly and so together and did it live, online live, and people came in, like 5,000 people saw the first live performance of it. And we were, fortunately, with all the things that can go wrong with Zoom, none of which have gone wrong in this, I would say. But we also all have more practice at Zoom now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But nothing went wrong. Everything was perfect. Everything was right. It came down with the thing, the stage manager said, "And we're out." And 2 of the 5 of us froze on screen. And we went, "Oh my God, how close we were." Richard's having a heart attack going, he was just sure it was going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was received, it was seen by 80,000 people ultimately over 30 countries. We did a second one, which had to be postponed because of the George Floyd tragedy, the murder there that obviously changed the whole national conversation. We had just done a reading of a version of the second one, which the public had asked for, and it was like, I have to rethink this.
Mm-hmm.
But within 2 or 3 weeks, Richard had reworked it, come back and found the right moment for it. And we did that. That was called "And So We Come Forth," about the emergence, trying to come back after all of this stuff. And again, great attention to it. And the one we opened last week was called "Incidental Moments of the Day." And each one is a very different part of our experience this is a white family in Rhinebeck, New York, a liberal white America, getting a particular tone of these particular people, but a very different part of the pandemic. So in a way, it's chronicling the movement of part of the country through that time, and it's so specific and it's so beautifully done. I mean, Richard's writing is gorgeous, and I'm very proud of the ensemble. But we now have a trilogy, and we're being seen all over the world, and there's talk of maybe finding a way to bring the 3 together and show them all and all that sort of thing. But we've actually been actively at work at a time when everybody else, talented though they be, has gone, well, what do I do now, you know? So I feel
If
very,
there's,
very lucky. And that's
yeah.
a long answer to a, but very
No, no.
specific.
I mean, and really, I would be remiss if I did not say if there is a fourth one, maybe they have a friend in the Midwest.
I had suggested that. I said, I don't know if he still has the costume, but
Yeah, maybe.
I can easily tell him to get off the stage.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
No,
Get off the Zoom.
the Zoom, exactly. But
Uh,
it's been a brilliant time, and of course, Marianne and I are together
yeah,
in all of them because we're married and live together, but we're still playing brother and sister. So he found specific situations which explained why everyone was where they were, and the only strange thing is that right at this time when there's so much talk about what role does race play in our considerations, we are an all white group, um, which is interesting because coming from a girl from the North Country, which is decidedly not, in which I have a black daughter and a black mistress, and where the range of the whole cast and all is very mixed and wonderful. Um, when somebody said, "Well, who cares about a white family?" I thought, "Well, it's just another family. It's
yeah,
we're all particular, but it is something that we're aware of, and conversations come up due to that as well too. So,
yeah.
um, but it's an exciting time aside from Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
I should mention that. Talk about a moment. What a great, great tragic loss that is, and
Yeah.
we'll see where these next couple of months take us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all. I mean, that just happened yesterday, and we're all definitely living in the shadow of that.
Yeah, she
I don't want to blow too much smoke, but I gotta make my case about Jay while he's still sitting here. We talked about Joel calls him that guys. You are kind of the ultimate that guy in screen and stuff. And we kept telling people who didn't recognize your name as we were hyping the show. Oh, you'll know when you see him. And I really believe they will, because you scattered about in such meaningful ways. It was really fun to hear you talk about how you, as much as an actor can, strategize their way through their appearances and the variety they try and bring to their roles. But we're so grateful, man, so grateful for the work that you do to bring these characters to life with such integrity on screen. I mean, it's you're, in a way, I'm envious. You're living the dream, but you bring so much to those parts. And we talk about always telling stories and growing in empathy through storytelling and telling the story behind the story, which we got ample amounts from you today. And we're just grateful for that, grateful for the work, and honored to have you here, truly.
If you ever get a chance to see, you talk about obscure things or things that have kind of fallen away. The picnic thing, I don't know what happened with that, for example. I was proud of that, and
Sure. That
I love
kind of
working on that.
maybe lost because there's this other iconic, the William Holden picnic.
Yeah, but I don't.
out
But
there.
for some reason, but they do have remakes.
Of course.
For some reason, I think it got caught up in something with rights, or I don't know.
Yeah, because as you were talking about it, I was quick looking it up, and I'm like there's not even. It's like it's hard to even find information about it online.
Yeah.
So.
And
yeah.
another one is Peter Berg wrote and directed. I think he wrote it. There was a piece that he worked on, came because his mother had worked at Bellevue as a nurse when he was growing up, and he wrote a series that only lasted 10 or 13 episodes, and was originally to be titled Bellevue, but that they couldn't get the rights for that or whatever. Ultimately, was called Wonderland.
I remember that.
And it was, again, a wonderful group of actors and really out there. And I played in the pilot for it, and he kept talking about he wanted to bring me back and had a whole storyline idea, but it was beyond as beyond the point that they got to. So we never did. But it was a very, very emotional piece. A businessman who's in total denial about why he's there, but they, as he's talking, he said, "Look, I don't even know why I'm here. This is ridiculous. Can you just let me go?" And all just kind of trying to talk his way out. And as they're doing it, the doctor walks over and unwraps his two arms are wrapped, and he's sliced from there to there on both sides. Which I said, "How do you even do that?" No,
Yeah.
but that's one of those scenes I remember walking into, and a college friend of mine was the cinematographer and had suggested me for it, and it was a memorable moment, a scene I loved, and I often wonder where that's gone off to. But,
That's fantastic. We'll take. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
have
great.
to.
And you're in Jay, if you want to see him in some recent series, those of you guys who are out there streaming, he's in The Sinner, a season of that, which he's great in. He's in Sneaky Pete, which is a fantastic series that people should check out if they're into
and Manhunt,
history stuff.
Manhunt,
Yeah.
the recent one, which was the long form version of what's his name? The guy who the Atlanta bombings. Remember
Richard Jewell,
Richard Jewell.
the
They
Olympic
shot that-
bombings,
They shot that film while we were in the midst of shooting the
the
long
Manhunt version.
form streaming
Yeah.
series, and apparently they're going to show that on CBS. They've told me CBS has bought it up. They're going to show it.
Yeah.
And I play the role that, oh, goddamn, who's it from? Wonderful actor, but looked totally different from me. Smaller, the guy who played in Three Billboards.
Oh, Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
Sam Rockwell, and bunch of wonderful actors in that. Wonderful. Arliss Howard, wonderful in that.
Oh wow, he's good.
Cameron. Anyway, but yeah, just try to keep working. You know,
Keep working. Keep doing interesting things.
there's a film.
Yeah.
There's a short film that's part of a 3-part. I think they're supposed to show them as 3 parts, called DC Noir. Written by George, who wrote The Wire and Treme, and
geez, what's his
you know
name?
what I mean?
I know exactly who you mean.
Yeah, sorry, Pelicanos.
but-
George Pelicanos.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and now it's driving me crazy about the stories. It's not the Oresteia. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no, I all I could find was
Anyway.
the Plague at Thebes and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the-
And where they have to keep telling stories to get it through. Anyway, blah blah blah. But I have a lot of enthusiasm for what I do. I'm lucky to have a best friend, Marianne, who does it a lot with me, and who's wonderful and helps keep me on my game and off my ego, and I'm lucky to have friends like Joel and now you, Ryan, who are enthusiastic about the art and everything we do, which fuels me. You know, it just reminds me why I do it. So, thank you guys.
Oh, you are
Thank you.
so welcome. Thank you so much, Jay. Again, this was an absolute treat. Obviously, just to get to see my friend again, but also thank you so much for sharing these stories. These were just tremendous. It's so much fun. So just to wrap it up here real quick, the applefamilyplays.com. And then you can, of course, reach out to Ryan and I at The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on Facebook, at Ask Joel and Ryan on Twitter and Instagram, and, of course, our YouTube page, which, if you are watching us right now, you're already on it. So go ahead and click and subscribe to that.
For sure.
And ask Joel and Ryan at gmail.com if you have anything you want to reach out to us about. So thank you so much. And we will see you all. And there's the nose one more time. We will see you all next week.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.